Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Crawford, and this is my presentation on the saxophone as a vocal medium. In this presentation, I will be discussing and demonstrating the different ways that the saxophone can be viewed as a vocal instrument. And with that, I will be using these four pieces: Aria by Eugene Boza, Sonata for alto saxophone and piano by Phil Woods, Romance by William N. Steele, and the Concerto in E flat for alto saxophone and piano by Alexander Glazunov. The first piece in this presentation is the Aria by Eugene Boza. Eugene Boza is a French composer who was born April 4th, 1905, and died September 29th, 1991. He has written the aria in the year 1936. This puts him at the age of 31 by the time this piece was written. Along with this piece, the saxophone itself is considered a younger instrument in the woodwind family, at least compared to the flutes, because with the saxophone being made in 1846, there wasn't really as many saxophone classical repertoire that were made for it if you compare it to the flute or the clarinet, because these two instruments, they have many different pieces written from Bach, Mozart, Handel, and Schubert. But for the saxophone, because it was so young, it had Eugene Boza. Eugene Boza, he took influence from Bach's piece called the Organs Pastel in F major. As you see here, you can see the rhythmic similarities from here to the opening intro of Aria. The piece Aria is originally written for a female opera vocalist, but later on it was transposed to the alto saxophone. This piece, Aria, is a major cornerstone in the saxophone repertoire because it shows a different side of a musician's musicality. Because for most saxophone repertoire, it has a typical fast technique, but with the aria, it has its own challenges, which is the long phrasing, the beautiful tone, and it takes a more controlled, different side of the performer to make this piece sound beautiful for the listener. And give me a brief moment, I will demonstrate the piece for you. next piece on the presentation is Sonata for Alto Saxophone and Piano by Phil Woods. The sonata was written by Phil Woods, who was a jazz saxophonist that wanted to create a piece that combines both elements from the classical side and the jazz side into one piece. Phil Woods was born November 2nd, 1931 in Springfield, Massachusetts, and died September 29th, 2015. He was 59 years old, well into his career when he wrote the sonata in 1990. Phil Woods had wanted to close the gap in classical and jazz repertoire. With the sonata isn't like most other classical pieces. It has elements from the jazz side that's incorporated into the piece. For example, in the first movement, it has a 16 measure improv section for the performer to do what he pleases within the key. The improv section is basically the performer is given key changes, chord changes, and he is required to make up his own melody within the piece. And the third movement of the sonata, it takes from a more jazzy blues type of feel. As you see in the first few measures, it shows the E minor blues just in a different pattern. With this piece, Phil Woods himself, it takes a connection from Charlie Parker. I just found this out recently that Phil Woods, his connection to Charlie Parker is that he actually married Charlie Parker's wife, and he became a stepfather to his daughter. Sometime after Charlie Parker had passed, he took his alto that was basically more of like a passing of the torch. With this piece for the sonata, it can also be named or called as the third string. The third string it takes elements from a jazz piece and elements from a classical piece and combines it into one. That becomes a third string piece. And with that, I will once again show you the examples for that. next piece on this program is Romance by William and Still. Romance by William by Romance was written in 1954, sometime after the Harlem Renaissance period. William Van Still, the composer, was given the name the Dean of African American Music because he has a high prolific of different pieces that was performed just for him being a person of color. William Van Still was the first African American composer to have his piece performed by a major orchestra in the United States. During his time in college, at first he didn't study music. He actually went to school at Wilburn in Ohio to study medicine. But sometime down the line, he left that field and went to Oberlin Conservatory of Music to study music and compose. The Romance, it takes, the Romance has a different feel than most slow lyrical pieces. In the first half of it, it has a more jazzy feel that demonstrates the struggle from the African Americans during their time. In the later half of the piece, it still has that jazzy feel, but it's a bit more open and free, still in the classical realm. Within that opening and free portion of the piece, it shows a diatonic scale from D major and from E major a bit later on. With this piece of Romance, it gives you a more warming feeling that makes you want to listen more and see where it goes next within the piece. And now I will take the time to go and demonstrate to show you this warm feeling of the piece. was a Russian composer that has written this piece in 1934 for the alto saxophone. This piece was originally dedicated to Sigurd Rascher, a very popular saxophonist that had a phenomenal range in the altissimo. But for Glazunov, he wrote this piece to keep it within the standard saxophone range, but still keep that classical style. Sigurd Rascher was a very popular saxophonist to many, and he had established the saxophone for a more concert classical style. The concerto is a more symphonic type of piece compared to something like the Romance. The Romance is more of a lyrically more expressive, rhythmically driven type of piece. The concerto is more for a symphony and solo performance. The concerto was originally written for saxophone and piano, saxophone and orchestra, but later on down the line it had reduced to saxophone and piano because it's pretty expensive to keep a full orchestra with you to perform this piece, even if it is for just one time. The Glazunov concerto is all just one continuously giant piece of music, but within it there is different three different movements. You have the sonata allegro, the andante, and the fugue. Within the first movement, you will hear the opening theme, which will be the main thing you would listen to throughout the piece. Moving on to the development section. The development section in the concerto is more of the lyrical side of it that shows the expressionism through the performer, and the more technical cadenza that basically gives the performer the chance to show off. The fugue is the third movement of the piece. This takes